Hey guys, it's Blitzscribe back with more Genshin Impact. Today's video is in anticipation of the Stand By Me event, in which we'll be given the opportunity to choose any of these featured characters from the Liyue for free. Recommendations really depend on what characters you guys are running, but I'll say that a C0 unlock is very strong because it diversifies your options. Nevertheless, I'll go through the featured characters and hopefully it'll help you guys make the right decision. First of all, let's go through the legend of this picture I've created. The plus icon refers to support role, the sword icon refers to DPS role. The text below the icons are constellations. The constellations in white are good constellations, but the ones in red are the really important one. Below the constellations are the list of strong synergy for this character. Lastly, at the bottom you get the overall tier ranking. Okay, so let's go through the characters one by one. Xiangling, the free-to-play character, most of you would have gotten Xiangling. The more I play Xiangling, the more I love her, and she's very important in today's format still. The reason is because of the AoE damage potential and her access to Vaporize, or the reaction that can help destroy shields, overload. She is still the best pyro character that can continue to deal pyro damage off the field. Her best potential is as a support, ideally in a team that has a pyro carry, to help with her high energy requirement. The strongest constellation is C4 because it boosts the duration of her ultimate. If you're using a pyro carry like Diluc or Klee, unfortunately because they are already normally paired with Bennett, Xiangling is seen as a solid third pyro. She also has a strong synergy with anyone who can proc continuous hydro, turning her into a reverse vaporized carry. Candidates include Child, Mona, Barbara, Xingqiu. The only downside to Xiangling is that her Goba is a bit clunky and she has a high energy requirement for her ultimate, but overall I would place her in the S tier list. Moving on to Beidou. Beidou is a funny one. She has the potential for being really strong, but it requires two things: fine play and inevitable attacks. When enemies can get staggered, Beidou's value drops significantly, but when you are fighting bosses, she shines again when you are not able to stagger lock them. She also possesses one of the best elemental application in the game as long as you can stay in the melee range. Unlike Xingqiu, the damage is continuous. It doesn't matter if you're doing a plunging attack or charging the arrow. The downside to this is the high energy requirement like Xiangling, so she is normally inevitably chosen as a second electro unit, the first being Fischl. She has a very niche setup, like in a Sucrose, Fischl, Beidou and Xingqiu setup, or like the one that I'm rocking, Xiao, Fischl, Beidou, Jean. Her best potential is when her ultimate gets combined with a continuous hydro attack, like from Xingqiu's ultimate, to do a continuous electro charge attack. I have listed constellations that improve her performance as DPS, but Beidou's best potential is as a support. Her C2 allows her ultimate to bounce to more enemies and is the constellation that changes her output most significantly. Her C4 allows her to deal electro attack while DPSing, and it's important because at this stage her total output as DPS would be higher using the Electro Cup, so you no longer have to put physical cup on her, so the cup will boost both her E and Q, meaning her performance as a support and as a DPS. Her tier is at A because she struggles to take advantage of her E skill at many parts of the game's content, but in particular situation where her E is useful, she's extremely good but is also mechanically challenging. Moving on to Xinyan. Xinyan's style is top tier, but unfortunately she's not a character that significantly changes the game in any way. The best use of Xinyan is as a cleanser because her shield can cleanse the status afflictions. In the previous Abyss, this was highly relevant on floor 12. Right now it's very good on floor 11, but there are other alternatives like Bennett's ultimate or Diona's shield, to name just a few. Nevertheless, she can have an absurdly strong burst support when you unlock her C2, as this allows her ultimate to have 100% crit rate, so you just build crit damage on her. Her synergy is towards physical carries like Razor, or when you use Xiangling as your carry, for example. Her tier is at B because she doesn't make or break the game in any way, and the instances in which she can be useful, there are other characters that can fulfill the same role. Moving on to Ningguang. Ning is quite possibly the strongest 4-star carry in the game, especially with the recent Geo buff. The only downside is that her highest DPS output is locked behind the last constellation. Without any exaggeration, she is the 4-star carry that can most closely reach the levels of Diluc, who is a 5-star carry. If you guys have her at C0, you also just need an extra constellation to significantly change her performance as a carry. Any other Geo would be very good for Ning if just for the resonance bonus. Of course, ideally the other Geo unit is someone that can help contribute with Ning's energy for her ultimate. Geo is a very flexible element, so Ning's performance is usually consistently good in most situations. Moving on to Xingqiu. Xingqiu is still the best sub DPS in the game in most situations, with the caveat of needing the sacrificial sword. He competes with the likes of Fischl and Beidou. Xingqiu is great as a standalone in any team comps, but he also has the best damage potential because he has access to Vaporize. Unlike the other characters featured here, I wouldn't recommend Xingqiu as a DPS at all. His constellations buff his overall damage, with the final constellation almost doubling his damage scaling. He has a strong synergy with Fischl, with either Pyro carries or any other Hydro carries. Lastly, Chongyun. Chongyun is a very important sub DPS for certain team comps, but they are very niche, Bennett and Kaya. Even though it's niche, Bennett and Kaya are both strong team comps in the game's content, so having Chongyun at C0 is very beneficial. As a sub DPS, C2 will allow your skill's cooldown to be reduced within his field, which is a very rare effect in the game. C6 will substantially increase his ultimate damage loadout, which is the best thing about Chongyun outside of just creating the field for converting melee attacks to cryo. C1 is a very strong constellation for Chongyun as a DPS. It's the constellation that is required to make his damage even close to being competitive. Even then, I wouldn't recommend Chongyun as a DPS at all because there are far better candidates, like Ningguang for example. The only other niche that Chong has at the moment is the fact that he is both Cryo and Claymore, so in one floor of the Spiral Abyss, he can counter two types at once, Geo and Electro Fatui. If you don't have Chongyun, unlocking him as an option is still a very strong option. But sadly, he does have the worst overall value amongst all of the characters here, and he's at a C tier list. Having said that, don't let the tier list sway you into using Chongyun when you are playing Bennett or Kaya, because he is the best enabler for them in the entire game. So final words to wrap this all up. If let's say you guys don't have any of the characters here except Xiangling, my recommendation is to unlock Xingqiu. If you guys have all these characters at C0, I would say the best C1 is for Ningguang. In fact, that is what I intend to do for one of my accounts because I only have Ning at C0. If I already had her at C1, I would continue to improve the constellations on Xingqiu. That's all from me. If you guys find the video useful, please leave a like and do subscribe for more Genshin Impact content. Have a great one guys, bye bye.